Legal it can be intimidating. So I always like to think of it, as I said, it's a foundation that you're building as you grow. So when you're starting out, you want to protect your website and have a contract. And then as you build, you might add on a course or membership. So then you need your terms. And then a couple months later, you might host a retreat. And so then you need that contract. You don't necessarily need everything all at once. And what's nice is, once you get these things in your toolbox, you have them as your business continues to grow.
Welcome to another episode of the Health Coach Academy podcast. I'm your host, Omar Cumberbatch of OmarCumberbatch.com. As always, appreciate you joining in and learning all new and wonderful things in the health coaching space. And today we're going to talk about a topic that is probably not on the forefront of many people's minds, just because it's something that I think a lot of people get caught up in and kind of neglect. And that's just like the legal aspect of coaching, right? And we know that coaching is a business and we hope to have successful business, but there's a elephant in the room when it comes to just the legal and technical stuff surrounding litigation and contracts and such. So this is really an important subject that I think that we can dive into with today's guest, Sarah Waldbuesser. And I really had a great time with her, and we really got into some interesting topics that I think, again, we seldom think about. So I'm really excited to share her with you. As always, please leave a rating and review on iTunes. It goes a long way for me to continuously get great guests like Sarah. And of course, please, if you do know anybody who is interested in starting a podcast and can help out their health coaching businesses, just tell them to jump on my website. It's out there, doing really well, getting a lot of good reviews on it. So yeah, just take the listen to what's upcoming with that. And I'm really excited to continue to share that as well. All right, let's jump into the show. Hey, Sarah, welcome to the show. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. I am really excited to talk about your journey for sure, because you are a fellow health coach who has a very, very interesting background in the legal field. And you have an interesting journey both in the health space and as an attorney who's helping health coaches. So like your experience as an attorney as well, and it really kind of merged the two together to give like a profound legal background, because I think that's one thing that I honestly have really neglected, I think overall, specifically because I get concepts where you may need an attorney, but just looking at your websites, I am selling that short big time, and there's a variety of things that we could get jammed up. So I'm really excited to share you with the audience. So yeah, so give us a little bit about your background and tell us a little bit about yourself so we can get to know you better.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm obviously an attorney, and I'm the founder of Destination Legal, and we empower coaches and health coaches to legally protect themselves with contracts, which we sell as digital downloadable templates. And then we also do registered trademarks. So, I know as you work with health coaches and you are a health coach, so many amazing people building business and helping people. And actually one of my registered trademarks is protect your passion, because the last thing you want to do is spend years and time and heart and money in building a business that is on shaky legal foundation. And there are lots of things that can happen, and I'm sure we'll dive into some of those. But, rewinding, like so many coaches and health coaches, and business owners in general, we all started a business because we wanted something more. And so for me, I was a practicing attorney. I wasn't really fulfilled. I didn't enjoy it. And I wanted the freedom and flexibility to really work from wherever, whenever I wanted. And so about 10 years ago, I discovered that there were actually people building businesses online. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. But because I didn't love being a lawyer, I really didn't want to do the legal thing. And I hit some bumps. I had an e-commerce store, and I was selling drop shipping furniture, and I was a consultant, and I was doing all of this stuff, and eventually found my way to thought that I wanted to become a health coach. I've struggled with weight over the years, and I probably know more than many health coaches because I've read basically every book, and I actually loved going to IIN. I loved learning and doing all that. But when it came to, actually being a health coach, I was like, I'm not sure I really want to spend my time doing this. And I met so many great people, and once they heard that I was an attorney, they kept asking me questions like, what kind of contract do I need, and is this one that they gave me okay, and what about a privacy policy, do I need that on my website? And started Destination Legal about 7 years ago. And since then, I've had the opportunity to help thousands of coaches protect their business and just give them that confidence and knowledge that they are building a business that's on strong foundation.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you brought up the concept of strong foundation. And I know that a lot of health coaches just enter the space trying to help clients and get that established. What do you think are the solid foundations that we should be setting up as soon as we get our certificate and go out into the world?
Yeah, absolutely. So the number one thing that you need to protect your health coaching business is a contract. And I know you might get a contract if you have a certification, and I guarantee you it's not good enough. I've seen the IAN contract, I've seen the ICF contract. I know these are great organizations that do great training, but they are not attorneys, and it's just not adequate to really fully protect you. And, contracts, people, when you hear legal and lawyer and contract, you get scared, and it's like, ooh, I don't want that. And all of my clients are amazing. And I'm sure all of your clients are amazing, or at least 99% of them will be, but there will be 1% that are not. And there will be a legal issue, whether that's, someone misses a payment, or someone wants to drop out of the program, or someone isn't happy with the results that they've gotten or didn't get. And so your contract really protects you in those instances, and it creates a space for you and your client to outline expectations. And so your contract outlines not only what's included in your package, like how many sessions do you get, how long are calls, what if you miss a call, what if somebody is late? And, something I talk about all the time for health coaches is that you guys really are different than other types of business coaches or career coaches, because you're dealing with health, wellness, nutrition, food, exercise, weight, all of these personal issues. And so having disclaimers in your contract that really protect you from any kind of liability, being mentally injured, is just so important. So, there's a lot of other things to contracts, but those are really the main ones. And it's really, to get started in business, you only need two things. You don't need a website. You don't need an opt-in. The two things you need are a way to get paid and a contract. And that really is the beginning of your legal foundation.
Okay, because I'm glad that you brought that up, because one of the things that I think a lot of people assume that they have to do is get a LLC or a corporation. So we do not have to do that initially.
That is something you should do within the first 6 to 12 months. It doesn't have to be on day one. The first day you sell something, you're a sole proprietor. You are a business, you exist. It's a great idea to get an LLC. I wouldn't worry about a corporation. That's logistically a nightmare. A limited liability company is great. It's what most small business owners start out as. So after you've made, around $25,000 to $50,000, and that this business is something you really want to pursue. Otherwise, if it's just a side hustle that you might give up in 3 months, you don't want to go through the process of doing the paperwork.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a pain in the neck to dissolve those types of businesses as well, correct?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Yeah, I'm glad that you also brought up the difference between, like, say, health coaching and, say, a life coach. There's obviously different things that we should be looking out for. Have you ever, can you be sued for not getting a person results?
Well, first of all, as a health coach, you should never be guaranteeing results, right? So your marketing, your advertising, you shouldn't be guaranteeing anything. Like, yes, we all hope our clients will lose weight and get more energy and become stronger and sleep better. And you can certainly use testimonials of past clients, but you shouldn't be saying, I guarantee you're going to lose 10 pounds in the next 2 months. And so, yes, a coach can get sued for, not delivering, or, if a client again becomes like mentally or physically injured. It doesn't happen often. Coaching, as I'm sure you know, is an unregulated industry. So a lot of this stuff hasn't been tested in the courts yet. But you don't want to be the test case, right? And so
Right.
your contract is what is going to keep you out of court should you have a really angry client.
Okay. So yeah, no, and I know like a lot of my program specifically is about how health coaches can make money in a variety of ways that aren't just about a client and a one-on-one or a group program. There's many, many different things that we may need contracts or at least some kinds of agreements. And I'm thinking specifically, selfishly, courses, podcasts, thinking retreats. Like, can you talk and touch about a little bit of what is needed for those specific things as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So anytime you are being paid money or giving someone money, you want to think about a contract and have one in place. And there are different types. So you just mentioned online courses, memberships, group programs. For those, you have a different type of contract than you would have for your one-on-one. You would use something called terms of purchase. So terms of purchase might also be called terms and conditions. They're different from your one-on-one contract, which is something that might typically be signed through Satori or Dubsado or HelloSign for a longer program. And terms of purchase are electronically agreed to at the checkout. By checking out, you agree to our terms of purchase, and they're still binding on the purchaser, and again include a lot of the same protections. What's included in the course or membership? How long do they have access to? What's the cancellation policy? What's the refund policy? And those disclaimers, especially if you are, giving exercises or recipes or recommending supplements, all of that is opening you up to liability. And so those disclaimers are really what protect you should there be an incident or an unhappy client. And again, it's super easy. They just agree to it at checkout and you're all set. Now, retreats are a little bit of a different story because whenever you have something that's in person, you're really opening up your liability so much more to physical injury, right? So, if you're hosting a yoga retreat in Costa Rica or a wellness retreat in Arizona, and, so many things can go wrong. The bus that you've rented for everyone crashes and 3 people end up in the hospital. Somebody trips and falls during yoga and has a sprained ankle. Someone has a allergic reaction at breakfast. Somebody decides to trash the hotel room and disappear, right? So all of these things that we hope don't happen and usually don't happen, but certainly could happen. The retreat contracts just include a lot more legal protection. And of course, now should include these giant waivers on COVID and, that you don't have COVID. And if you get COVID on my retreat, it's not my fault. And, if you have to cancel because of COVID, you're not going to get a refund. All of these things. When the pandemic hit, so many coaches had to cancel retreats and events and lost so much money because they didn't have contracts that had the right protections in them.
Yeah, no, I'm just thinking as you were speaking, how many pitfalls you must have to try to prevent by putting these contracts in such a way that all of these options can have some kind of protection for you. And one of the things too is like, it's been interesting too, as my podcasts have grown, I have seen more people reach out with contracts podcast wise. I don't charge, and I'm not paying anybody to be on a podcast either. What was interesting is that they're talking about in these contexts, like really what I may or may not be able to do with their likeness. Is that a newer thing that's going on, and really have like where people are really concerned about the control about what you put out about them in the online space?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think there are people are concerned these days with privacy issues and, with people taking their content and using it on the internet and not having a lot of control. And a podcast is something that they try to have a little bit of control on. We sell a podcast release form on our template. Some podcast hosts use them, some don't. When you're talking about the content here, you're really talking about copyright. And so copyright is automatic. This is something you're creating. So technically, you own the content. There's an argument that I could own the content, but really, I think people want to ensure that, let's say in 10 years, I'm a billionaire and you take this interview and you start selling it for, $100 each or, something crazy like that.
Yeah.
People don't necessarily want them to be able to do that. It's not seen as much in the podcast space because, we are talking and we want the word to spread, right? Where it's the nature of the interview. I want to share it. You want to share it. And so I think people that are using releases just want to make sure that they have full control over the content. It's more so if you are a guest speaker and you have slides and you're presenting, you don't want the person putting on the event to be able to take your talk and resell it down the road, right? Because that is your content. You want to be able to have control over it. So I think it really depends on the situation, how concerned you are. Some people are just, more, want to have that extra layer of protection.
Mm-hmm. And that goes for, I guess, YouTube content as well, similar kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
All right. So one of the other things that a lot of I shouldn't say podcasts, but just health coaches in general, we do joint ventures with other health coaches and practitioners. Like, are contracts and agreements required or encouraged in that interaction and that kind of business venture?
Yes, certainly highly, highly encouraged, right? Nothing is required except a privacy policy on your website is actually legally required, but use of contracts isn't. But they're always a good idea, especially in a partnership, because partnerships, start out so friendly and we're on the same page and we're so excited, but they can go south really fast. And so, if you're starting a joint venture, you're doing a course together, running a program together, having some sort of partnership agreement, something in writing in place, outlining, some of the biggest issues I see are when partners haven't agreed to what each person is doing, and then one partner resents the other because they're not doing enough. So outlining what each person is in charge of, whose bank account is the money going into? Are you starting a new LLC for this? How are you getting paid out after all the expenses are paid? And then, of course, like, what happens if someone wants out? What happens if someone gets injured? What happens if someone goes on maternity leave? What happens if someone dies, right? And so these are just things that you want to make sure you're thinking about, and just getting them in writing from the beginning is really important.
Mm-hmm. So another category that business builders in the health coach space really deal with a lot are, like, virtual assistants, web designers, and especially, like, I think of myself as well, who deals with a lot of people who are overseas. Like, what kind of arrangements are we looking to protect ourselves in that scope as well?
Yeah. And so in those situations, when you're hiring team members, typically these are going to be contractors. So you want just like a service provider agreement or an independent contractor template that's going to outline what are they delivering to you? How are they delivering it? How are they getting paid? When are they getting paid? Again, similar to your one-on-one contract, contracts are here to help with boundaries and expectations in any relationship. One of the things you really want to make sure is in a contract with a VA, a social media manager, a copywriter, is that any of the content they're creating for you, you own it. So technically, if they're writing for you, they own it, right? As we were just saying, copyright things is automatic. The person that creates it owns it. So if my VA writes my blog post, technically she owns it unless she passes the copyright on to me in the contract, which is really important. And the way that this could kind of come back to bite you later on, let's say you have this amazing VA, she writes 2 blog posts a month, and you write 2 blog posts a month. In 5 years from now, you publish a book based on this, becomes a bestseller. You're on the New York Times list. You haven't spoken to her for 4 years. She comes now asking for royalties because she wrote some of it, right? And so you need to make sure that whoever's working for you, anything that they're creating for you, you own it. And the way that you do that is through your agreement with them.
Mm. Yeah, no, these are a lot of pitfalls, especially when you're just starting out. You never immediately imagine that you're going to be the next Tony Robbins of health coaching, and then all of a sudden it happens, and all these people coming at you over things that are very much not in your, at least the way that you're looking, and how it's going to transpire.
Yeah. And, legal it can be intimidating. So I always like to think of it, as I said, it's a foundation that you're building as you grow. So when you're starting out, you want to protect your website and have a contract. And then as you build, you might add on a course or membership. So then you need your terms. And then a couple months later, you might host a retreat. And so then you need that contract. You don't necessarily need everything all at once. And what's nice is, once you get these things in your toolbox, you have them as your business continues to grow.
And it may be a little silly question, but in your experience with dealing with so many clients, obviously, that you deal with, how is the feeling around presenting this to their clients? I know that there's like some trepidation about, giving a contract and doing that part of the business side of the health coaching actual business. Do you have any advice on how to get past that?
Yes. And I love this question because legal can be a mindset thing. So, I would say to you, if you went out and bought a house tomorrow, would you have a contract?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. If you wouldn't go buy a car without a contract, you're agreeing to terms of purchase every time you buy something online. You are building a real business. You are a health coach. You're the CEO of that business, and you should treat it that way from day one. And if you have any, if your client has an issue with a contract, then that's a red flag for you, right? If they're not wanting to agree to your payment terms or to the structure of your program, then you want to run the other way. I know, I do work with a lot of healers and energy workers and yoga instructors and health coaches, and, they want to trust their clients, and everything happens for a reason. And, that's not a way to do business. I promise you that the yoga instructors and those coaches making 6 and 7 figures, every single one of them is utilizing a contract and using legal. And, I promise you, because I hear this all the time, once you have this in place, you will feel better. You'll feel more confident. You'll feel empowered in your business. You will feel protected, and you'll just feel like, wow, I am the real deal here. There really is something to feeling legit in your business. So it's not something to be afraid of. And it's, because of places like Destination Legal and other online template shops, this isn't something that's going to break the bank. These are really affordable things that certainly didn't exist 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree. And that's one of the things that I think what happens, we kind of can't imagine us getting sued. It's like one of those things like, what? You really, that it's kind of something that's unbelievable until it actually happens to you. So I wanted to even give you an opportunity to just discuss what some of or maybe 1 or 2 horror stories that you've experienced and witnessed just because some of these things weren't in place.
Yeah, absolutely. So, one of the biggest issues that happens when you don't have a contract is if someone wants a refund or wants out of the contract or wants out of your package, you have no choice but to give it to them. So if you've coached someone for 3 months and they ask for a refund and you have no contract, you don't really have a leg to stand on. They could do a chargeback, they could bring a claim, and without anything, without any safety net, you have to give back money. And if you've ever had to give a refund, like, that hurts. That's no fun. And then, the other thing is people just wanting out of contracts and leaving. And again, if you don't have anything to start with, then you really don't have any options. And a contract really is just a place to start. You don't necessarily have to abide by it as a business owner, but you get the option to. Some of the other horror stories are around, people bad-mouthing coaches over on the internet. So contracts should have a non-disparagement clause, which basically says, neither of you can badmouth each other around the internet. Like, it's just not allowed. And so I had someone come to me a couple of weeks ago, and she had an angry client who was threatening to release screenshots of coaching conversations and text messages back and forth. And there was no contract in place. And this coach was really scared. So I really felt for her in that situation. And then, the other thing that can happen is someone is unhappy with the result and doesn't think that they got what they paid for with your coaching, or there is some kind of injury or thing like that. Lawsuits don't happen a lot, thank goodness. I would say more of the legal issues come up around payment issues, non-disparagement, things like that.
Okay. So one of the things that I did notice on your website, there are a lot of references to trademarks. So I was curious, what are they, and do they have anything to do with health coaches? And so should we keep our eye on something like that, and how relevant it is for our industry?
Yeah, absolutely. So a registered trademark is a really powerful business asset. And basically, it's a way to own the name of your business, your brand, your program, so that nobody else can use it, right? And so these exist a lot in the health coaching space. I have, I've done at least, I would say, 50 trademarks for health coaches or those in the health and wellness space, whether it's around a yoga retreat or just the name of a business. Metabolism Makeover is a trademark that I've done. Strong with Sarah is one of my health coaching clients. Yoga retreat, all of these things. And, we see trademarks all of the time in our world, right? If someone walks in right now and has a cup with a green logo on it, you don't question that they're drinking Starbucks, right? You know it. You know it's not Dunkin' Donuts. You know it's not something else. If you see, a tennis shoe with a swoosh on the side, you know it's Nike. So it's a way that, people can tell who is producing goods or services in the market. And they're really powerful. Like, once you own it, you can stop anyone else in the industry from using it, right? And so people trademark the name of their podcast, they trademark the name of their signature course, and then nobody else within the coaching or health coaching industry can use something similar. And people are really snapping them up these days, right? The trademark office is overwhelmed. It's taking forever to get approved. But that's because people are waking up to what awesome business assets they are to have. And a lot of my clients have 4 or 5 or 6 trademarks, because once you start, it's kind of addicting.
So you mentioned as an asset, so we can actually sell those as well?
Absolutely. I mean, look at Meta. Meta just bought the Meta trademark from somebody else for was it billions, I think. A trademark is absolutely something that you can sell, that you can trade, and you can stop other people from using it. So if someone is using a similar trademark, you can send them a cease and desist letter and they have to stop. So it really is a powerful thing. Now, this is something you're not probably going to be interested on day one of your business. You want to be a little bit more established. It is an investment. It does take a while to get approved. But if you have a signature course or the name of your brand or business, and you know that you want to be using that 5, 10, 15 years from now, you want to think about registering it as a trademark.
Yeah, no, that's good stuff. So you dropped a whole bunch of knowledge on us. I really learned a lot today. I know that the audience has as well. Just give us a little bit of an overview of what your company does. Obviously, you don't do and delve into everything we've discussed today, but I would like to give you an opportunity just to encapsulate it at the end and just have the audience be able to see if they'd be interested in taking advantage of some of the things you guys offer.
Yeah, absolutely. So something that's unique about Destination Legal in terms of being an online kind of digital contract shop is that I have specific templates for health coaches because, as you heard, I went to IIN. I am very familiar with the health coaching industry, and I saw a need for industry specific contracts. And so when you go to my site, you'll see I have health coaching bundles, health coaching contracts, health coaching terms of purchase for group programs, and those have different disclaimers of warranties and liabilities than you would find in the regular coaching contract. So that's one thing that really makes Destination Legal unique. And then, as I also do register trademarks, there's a lot of information on the blog at destinationlegal.com. And then if you're interested, I'm on Instagram at Sarah Waldbuesser or Destination Legal as well. I have two accounts kind of tied back and forth. And yeah, it's my goal to kind of make legal less intimidating. I know it's never going to be exactly fun, but it's one of those things that you just check it off your list. And as I've said, I promise you, I guarantee, I'm not supposed to guarantee, but I will say I can pretty much guarantee that you're going to feel better.
Yes, no, and I
definitely believe that to be the case as well. And I really enjoyed the fact that you showed that just having these things in place has definitely a professional feel to it. And I think people look at you a little different when you do have all these things in place. And it's not something that you should be shy about or shy away from. It's definitely something that, like I said, enhances the visual representation of your business as well. So I think it's very important.
Yeah, absolutely. It can, if you send a welcome packet, it can just be part of your onboarding process. It doesn't have to be, a big thing.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. So can you give us your website? You did mention your social media a little bit, but if you do have any other ways of getting in contact with you, please just share it at this moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Destinationlegal.com. And if you head over there, you can sign up for and I can give you the link for this too, Omar. We have a coach's legal checklist, and it just goes over the 4 most important things to think about when you're starting out.
Excellent. Yes, absolutely. And yes, share that with me. I'll throw it in the show notes and I'll definitely send it out to the audience. So yeah, definitely appreciate you jumping on today. I learned a lot, like I mentioned, and I know that the audience has as well.
You are welcome. So happy to be here.
Thanks, Sarah. Appreciate you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Hope you enjoyed listening to today's episode of the Health Coach Academy podcast. If you did, jump over to iTunes and leave a rating and or review. It goes a long way in helping get this message out to our fellow health coaches and people in our industry. Also, if you can, jump over to my website, omarcumberbatch.com, where I give out a lot of freebies, including my 5-day sugar challenge for people who are having issues with sugar. And also for health coaches, I have the book, Hidden. It's the 6 not so obvious ways to get your clients unstuck. Have a great day.